There's a very specific kind of person who buys an Audi RS. They will tell you, calmly and with complete sincerity, that it was the practical choice. They needed the space. They do a lot of motorway miles. The performance was honestly almost secondary. And then they proceed to drive that car in a way that suggests they have never, not once, thought about fuel economy in their entire adult life. Not on the day they bought it, not on any day since. That contradiction between what RS buyers say and what RS buyers actually do is the most interesting thing about them, not the cars themselves, the people who choose them. Audi RS ownership is, at its core, a performance built around restraint. The cars don't scream for attention. The badges are small and deliberately understated. The color palette runs mostly sober, plenty of gray, plenty of black, the occasional deep blue. The wheel choices are aggressive in dimension, but tasteful in design. There are no wings bolted to boot lids. There are no vents that exist purely for visual theater. Everything about the RS aesthetic says, I know what this is, and I don't need you to know. And yet, underneath all that composed, buttoned-up German self-control, something very specific is going on psychologically. We'll come back to what that something is. Because it's the same thing in all of them, every single RS buyer, regardless of which model they chose, regardless of the size of their garage or the size of their ego, and it's not what you'd expect. First, some context. The RS sub-brand sits clearly above the standard S models and pushes well into territory that would have been considered supercar performance just a generation ago. These are cars developed and tuned by Audi Sport 5-cylinder, 6-cylinder, and 8-cylinder engines depending on the model, all of them producing numbers that would have seemed unreasonable in a road car not long ago. Quattro all-wheel drive across the entire range. Adaptive suspension systems that somehow manage to be genuinely comfortable on the school run and quietly terrifying on a demanding back road in the same afternoon without anyone adjusting anything. Carbon ceramic brakes available for those who want them. Launch control for those who claim they don't need it but have tried it at least once. Prices that start well above the ordinary premium segment and climb without apology or hesitation from there. These are not impulse decisions. They are, almost universally, the product of considerable deliberation and of people who have spent real time convincing themselves, and often someone sitting across a kitchen table from them, that this was the right and reasonable call to make. That framing is where the psychology becomes genuinely interesting. Because the RS buyer almost never admits upfront and cleanly that they simply wanted a very fast car and found one they could justify. That is not how the conversation goes. Instead, they describe the purchase in terms of long-term value, proven reliability, strong residuals, and, above all, practicality. The RS6 Avant, they will note with practice calm, has more boot space than many people's garden sheds. The RS3 is surprisingly fuel-efficient for its class when driven sensibly at motorway speeds. The RSQ8 is genuinely comfortable over long distances in a way that makes it almost economical when you consider the alternative of flying. All of this is completely true. Every word of it is verifiable. None of it is why they bought the car. Now, each model in the RS lineup attracts a slightly different version of this person. The foundational psychology is the same across all of them, but the expression changes depending on which car sits in the driveway, and those differences are worth understanding in some detail because they reveal a great deal about what people actually want from performance and how far they are prepared to go in order to maintain the appearance of not really wanting it that much. The RS3 buyer is perhaps the most transparent about the whole dynamic, which is ironic given that they are usually the youngest person in the dealership. The RS3 sits at the very sharp end of the compact performance segment, one of the most powerful production cars available at its size and price point, equipped with a 5-cylinder engine that produces an exhaust note entirely inappropriate for something you might use to collect dry cleaning on a Wednesday afternoon. Its buyers want aggression in the smallest possible footprint, and they are not particularly subtle about wanting it. Not loudly in the visual sense, the RS3 is restrained enough in appearance to pass without much comment in a car park, but loudly in terms of pure intent. RS3 buyers are not really performing the whole practical choice narrative with any great conviction. They signed up for the performance first and assembled the practicality arguments somewhere during the test drive or possibly on the way home from it. They are also, almost without exception, already watching the RS6 Avant the way you watch something you fully intend to own in a different, slightly more prosperous chapter of your life. The RS3 is the entry point into a particular way of thinking about cars. Most of its buyers know this. They are fine with it, and they are already planning the next move. The RSQ3 buyer occupies a more contemplative psychological position. They are at the most accessible entry point of the RS world, and they are whether or not they would use this language testing a hypothesis. The hypothesis is a simple one. Am I actually an RS person? The car lets them find out without having to fully commit to the answer in advance. The RSQ3 delivers the widened arches, the Quattro all-weather confidence, the sharper and more immediate throttle response, the discreet but unmistakable RS badging on the body. It delivers the identity in full. What it delivers slightly less of is the uncompromising, full-scale performance commitment of the larger and more expensive RS models. For its buyers, that calibration is rarely a compromise. It is usually a deliberate and considered choice. Some of them will upgrade within 3 years, having confirmed that yes, they are absolutely RS people, and they would like more of whatever this is. Others will decide that this was exactly the right amount of RS for their actual life, and they will stay here contentedly. Both are completely rational conclusions arrived at through legitimate reasoning, which makes the RSQ3 buyer, quietly, the most self-aware and intellectually honest person in the entire RS ownership population. They tried the identity on carefully before committing to it fully. There is nothing wrong with that approach. It is, in fact, rather sensible. The RS4 Avant buyer has no interest whatsoever in this conversation, and they would like you to know that by not acknowledging it at all. They already know exactly what they've got. They knew before they signed the order form, they knew before they booked the test drive, and they do not need any of it explained or validated by anyone. The RS4 is the purest car in the RS lineup, a genuine performance estate that looks, to any untrained or casual eye, like a very well-maintained company car. It carries no drama in its appearance. It announces nothing. It simply exists, quietly and without any visible fuss, as one of the most complete and capable driver's machines available at any price from any manufacturer. The people who chose it did proper, thorough research. They understood the chassis and what it could do. They read every serious test and compared every meaningful lap time. They put it directly against the BMW M3 Touring, against the Mercedes-AMG E63, against the Porsche Panamera Sport Turismo, and they made a quiet, private, entirely confident decision. They do not feel the need to discuss it with you. They are the ones who arrive at track days in what appears to be a practical family estate, say very little in the car park while others compare notes loudly, quietly post the fastest lap time of the morning session, and drive home without raising the subject once. The RS4 Avant buyer is the RS world's monk, disciplined, contained, occasionally and unexpectedly devastating, and quietly, privately, deeply pleased about every single aspect of that. The RS5 buyer shares the monk's genuine commitment to performance but has arrived at a different and equally defensible position on the question of being noticed. The RS5 Coupe and Sportback are genuinely beautiful cars, longer, lower, more visually composed and dramatic than their Avant siblings, with a silhouette that earns a second glance before the engine has had any opportunity to get involved. People who choose them have done exactly the same performance homework as RS4 Avant buyers. They know the figures. They understand what the car can do in the real world. But they have also looked at the shape from the right angle in the right light and felt something that goes beyond any lap time or horsepower figure. They want to be taken seriously, both at speed on an empty road and at a standstill outside somewhere that has a valet. They find nothing wrong with a car that performs at the highest level and also looks as though it might. The RS5 buyer is not vain. They have simply been honest with themselves about a broader and more complete set of priorities than the RS4 buyer is prepared to acknowledge. They see no fundamental reason why performance and visual presence should be required to cancel each other out. The car, having been designed by people who held exactly this view, agrees with them entirely. Then there is the RS6 Avant. If the RS lineup has produced one true cultural moment, one model that escaped the enthusiast press and the online forums and entered the wider, general conversation about what a performance car can be and what it means to own one, this is it. The RS6 Avant produces well over 600 horsepower in its current specification. It will also transport a family of 5 to an airport in genuine, unhurried comfort. It will carry a full set of luggage for all of them without requiring anyone to be creative about packing. It will return plausible fuel consumption figures on a long motorway run. It will fit in a standard supermarket car park space. Its buyers use all of these facts with impressive regularity. They deploy them in careful, well-rehearsed conversations with partners, with colleagues who ask questions, with family members who raise eyebrows, and with anyone else who has noticed what the estate parked outside actually cost and feels entitled to comment on it. The RS6 buyer is deeply, genuinely comfortable in their life and in their choices. They are also, at specific moments on specific roads, going very, very fast. And somewhere in a quiet and private corner of themselves, they are completely aware that their family estate just pulled away from a dedicated sports car at a roundabout without the driver appearing to shift position or make any deliberate effort. That awareness sits there, warm and private, and entirely satisfying. It is not unpleasant. The RS7 Sportback buyer wants everything the RS6 Avant delivers: the performance, the daily usability, the deep and quiet satisfaction of having made an objectively excellent decision, and they also want the room to feel just slightly, appropriately elevated by the specific nature of the choice they made. The RS7's fastback roofline is unmistakable from any angle. It makes an entrance in a way the RS6 estate, for all its ability, simply does not. Where the RS6 owner operates entirely from a position of needing no external acknowledgement from anyone, the RS7 buyer has made a considered and deliberate decision that a tasteful, measured, and entirely proportionate amount of acknowledgement is not only acceptable but genuinely appropriate given the circumstances. They worked for this car. They know they worked for it. And they have no particular interest in concealing that fact behind a roofline that implies otherwise. The four-door fastback body is their specific and personal balance between excess and understatement, and they have made genuine peace with the fact that it is, by any fair measure, a very refined and thoughtful balance to have struck. They are not showing off. They are simply and deliberately not hiding. As distinctions go, that one matters. The RSQ8 stopped hiding some time ago and has not looked back once. This is the RS model for the buyer who approached the entire idea of an RS car as a composed, measured, understated person, and somewhere across the course of the journey decided that understatement, as a guiding value, had received quite enough of their time and deserved a rest. The RSQ8 is large. It is visually striking from every possible angle. It is fast in a way that still surprises people who should know better, extraordinarily fast for something carrying its dimensions and its weight. The wide-body treatment is impossible to overlook. The wheels are substantial, and they are meant to be. The elevated stance makes absolutely clear that this vehicle has considered the option of going unnoticed and has declined it. Its buyers may have genuinely and seriously considered an RS6 Avant. They may have spent time looking at a Porsche Cayenne Turbo. They may have had, briefly and privately, a moment of wondering what the version of themselves who once drove an RS4 would make of standing in front of this. And then they chose a color that left no remaining ambiguity about their intentions and signed the papers without hesitation, not despite the attention the car generates everywhere it goes. Because of it, the RSQ8 buyer has fully and permanently stopped performing restraint and has started performing arrival instead. That is, at the very least, an honest and self-aware position to occupy. Here is the thing that ties all of them together. The single idea that was introduced quietly at the beginning of this. Every RS buyer, from the tentative RSQ3 first-timer still carefully working out whether this particular lifestyle genuinely suits them, to the completely unambiguous RSQ8 owner who settled that question decisively and at considerable volume, shares one foundational psychological trait. Every single one of them believes, genuinely and without a trace of irony, that they made the rational choice. Not the emotional one, not the indulgent one, the sensible, well-reasoned, properly considered one. They researched the competition thoroughly and in good faith. BMW M was evaluated carefully and ultimately found wanting, for reasons that felt entirely persuasive at the time and hold up somewhat less well when examined in calm retrospect. Mercedes-AMG was loud in ways that felt unnecessary and a little exhausting. Porsche was genuinely tempting, but ultimately excessive given what they actually needed from a car on an ordinary Tuesday. And so, after careful, thorough, and completely rational analysis of everything available to them, they arrived here. That this reasoning produces, in practice, a 600 horsepower family estate or a 2-ton performance SUV that leaves sports cars feeling self-conscious, or a grand fastback that announces itself at every postcode it passes through. This is something the RS buyer has fully considered and completely accounted for. They are at peace with it, calm, measured, composed, in total control of the narrative, right up until the road ahead goes clear, and there is no one around to observe, and the right pedal travels all the way to the floor.